Okay. Welcome. Hello, I am Lauren Bagel. I am the president of the Chicago chapter of Cornet Global, and I work with All Steel. Joining me on the other side of this computer is the lovely Jeanne Sparrow, speaker, consultant, TV, radio personality, or as I like to say, the one time I've interviewed, I'll call it a celebrity. She's a celebrity, and we're so happy to have you, right? Right, we can do that. Have her on the other side of this closure of the 15 Women, 15 Minutes initiative that we put together at the start of 2020 when life changed, changed us all forever. And we're still sort of writing it out. But we're telling inspirational stories, fun stories, and Jeanne is probably the perfect person to have here because she always makes me smile. She always makes me laugh. I've had the good fortune to have a conversation with her a couple times prior to this. So thank you, Jeanne, for doing this with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be asked to share my story and to talk to you guys again. You're a fun group of people, and I've enjoyed the time that I've spent with you.
Well, all right, I'm going to put the timer on here so that we don't take you too long. But I was going to say, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career journey and kind of how you got here, because I think it is quite a journey, and you have a lot to tell.
Yes, I will try to keep it short for the interest of time. I could probably talk about it for 15 minutes alone. But I've been in radio and television for over 30 years now. I started when I was 17, completely by accident. I was on the speech and debate team, and my coach sent me over to one of the local radio stations that she was friends with the program director. And she sent me and my best friend over there to audition for a job, and I got it. And yes, I'm still friends with that best friend because I've known her since, I think we've known each other since before we were born. So over the years, I've worked for some pretty amazing stations, both on television and in radio. As a host, I do voiceover work as well. And a few years ago, after my show that I was on got canceled, I officially started my own business. I never thought I could be an entrepreneur, but I realized when I went back to grad school how many people have challenges talking, period. I noticed it on air in the media, and I always thought it was just a media training issue, but I realized that a lot of us have problems expressing who we are, what our value is, and doing it well, like telling our stories in ways that draw people in and let them know who we really are, because that's really, the key to success. That's what I've learned in my business, and that's what I teach people now. It's what I talk about, and it's what I train, it's what I coach. And it's been an interesting journey because I've actually had to challenge myself about what that means to me.
Very good. Well, so I was looking at your sort of, we'll call it your resume, if you will. And as I mentioned, I saw Halle Berry and Kevin Costner amongst another roster of individuals that you've worked with in some capacity. That you're an Emmy-winning radio host. Oh, that's pretty fantastic. But along this journey of yours, can you talk about some of the mentors you've had and how they've played a large role in why you are where you are today?
Oh gosh, I've had so many, honey. It takes a village. It takes a whole village, a personal board of directors, and a whole team to keep me propped up and moving. One of the first mentors I had, and I didn't even realize it, and this is going to sound really strange, but professionally speaking, my first mentor was my mother. My mom was a vocal coach, a singing vocal coach. She went to Northwestern, had a master's in vocal performance and piano, and she was the piano teacher in our hometown, but she was also the choral teacher, and she coached a lot of people in their singing stuff. So she actually established for me something that I even teach my clients to this day, a process of understanding how you as a performer affect people. So, whenever I had little poems that I had to say for Easter or little speeches or things, because, we're both Gen Xers. So we always had to do those, what do they call them? The elocution things where you stand up in front of class and you do your book report and you do your thing. And my mother would make me, practice it And she would actually get a little tape recorder, and she would record it so that I could hear myself back and understand how I sounded and how my voice was coming across. Like if I sounded nervous, or if I was reading it or doing it the way that I thought I was doing it. So she gave me my first lessons in performance before I even realized. I just thought my mom was being weird, you know? and so, but literally that's what we do, you know, as actors, as on-camera performers and all of that. We have to watch our performance. We have to know how we affect our audiences. And I think that it's a helpful skill for anybody to have, to understand, because everybody's an audience. That's the trick, right? Because anybody you're talking to, whether it's just you and me talking in this video screen, or it's a whole group of people for a speech, or it's just your boss trying to get them to understand something, or a client, that other person is still an audience. And so I got instilled into me since I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. And everything that I have learned along the way from, there's one program director I had whose name was Elroy R.C. Smith. He's from Bermuda, and he's very proper and everything, but he was a marketing genius, still is to this day. And a lot of what he taught me about my craft and about how to relate to people and what people want and how to actually deliver it to them, I still use the lessons he taught me when I was in my 20s now.
That's pretty, well, and I think, right, I was thinking about just this, and even as I use my hands, I noticed that you use your hands too. I think it's part of learning when you're in front of an audience, not this, but to be somewhat engaging, but there's a limit to how much we're supposed to use our hands too, right? Like I think, but you were making me think about all of that, given your world. You've been in front of people live, and you've also been radio voice only, right?
Yes. So my career started in radio when I was 17, and I moved into television. I'm trying to think, that had to be, I was probably in my mid to late 20s, the first time I really did television. I worked for Channel 50 here in Chicago, and I would do like, and also TTW, I would do the, what do you call those things? Those telethons they used to have. One of my friends worked there and was like, come and do this telethon with me. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll do it. And, but yes, the thing about, I think a lot of people get caught up when you talk to your point about talking with your hands or things like that. A lot of people get caught up in what I like to call the granular things, when in reality, it's just being aware that you communicate with your whole body. The idea that about 90% of what we absorb as human beings when it comes to communication is nonverbal. It's about, you ever meet somebody and you immediately don't like them, but then like a week later, you encounter them in a different space and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like them. And you bond a different way. Something was probably going on with them that they were projecting in some way that first time. And, if you give people a second chance, sometimes it turns out better. But being aware that not only our gestures, but our eye contact, the tone of our voice, the expressions we use, the way we put our words together are actually far more important than the words themselves. And that's just reality. That goes way back to the time when we weren't verbal. We were able to make verbalizations, but we didn't have words. And people understood what people meant. Just like if you've been to a foreign country where you don't speak the language at all, when you get there, you understand when somebody's mad at you. You understand when somebody is like trying to help you. You understand all those things without knowing a lick of whatever the language is, because human communication is universal and it's mostly nonverbal.
Interesting. No, it's really true. And I'm sure we can all think of examples of just that. But I love it. Again, you're very engaging, whether it's in the computer or well, I haven't seen you in person, but I've seen you. But thank you for sharing that. So I'm gonna flip it to the sort of the impetus for these conversations was that we've been through a lot. 2020 has been I don't whatever we want to call 2020. It's it's
A hot mess.
I'm glad it's gone, but it's a year of our lives that's gone. So in some ways that's sad, but in some ways we're also, in many ways we're just all glad that it's behind us. But I think it's pretty easy to have the glass half empty attitude, right? But how do you try to stay glass half full? We're still sort of in this, right? We feel positive because thank goodness for Johnson and Johnson and Merck and this and another vaccine, right? We're moving in the right direction. But how do you stay positive? What are some of the things that kind of keep you going? 2020 wasn't easy for you, and 2020 wasn't easy for a lot of people, but looking for your perspective.
So I realized that my family is is pathologically optimistic. So even when I think I'm being down, I'm probably a lot more optimistic than most people. So it's a family trait. It's just how I was raised. I always hope for better. And that is what has gotten me through the last year, actually the last several years. As you know, personally, my father passed away from COVID in May of last year. And this is after 4 years of me being a caregiver for him as a dementia patient. And then my dog died in September. And COVID was particularly difficult for me in the beginning stages of it, as far as quarantine, because I'm an extrovert but I live alone. And even though I like being at my house by myself, I felt really isolated, probably lonely for the first time in my whole life. And I just focused on, therapy helps.
For sure.
And wine doesn't hurt when done in moderation.
Right. Responsibly.
FaceTime, FaceTime and Zoom helped, although I have also, because of my time in television, I also have balanced that because I think too much time in front of screens isn't healthy. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, it is realizing that every moment we have, regardless if it's a happy one or a sad one or an angry one or whatever, is here to show us something, to teach us something about ourselves. And that whatever this is here to shine a light on something that maybe we haven't seen before. Maybe something we don't want to see, but need to see. And sometimes just something we haven't noticed before. I have been able to look deeper. I feel like I'm a better person after this last year, after the loss, after the oddness of this, the stress, all of these things, when it has helped me to let go of a lot of unnecessary crap. And I'm happier now because of that. And I think it's because I stayed relentlessly focused and hopeful that we're all going to get through this, although we are going to be forever changed, but that what we're changed into is better on the other side. That's the hope that I keep holding on to for myself and for everybody I know.
Oh, that's awesome. It's really positive. And I think you're right. I think so many people have looked inward, right? I think we've had to. It's been a time of change. I don't think anybody I know hasn't thought long and hard about something, right? Whether personal, professional, but I think you summarized it beautifully. I know we're running closer on time. It's just so easy to talk to you. There's 2 minutes left.
Girl, keep talking. Let's keep talking.
Keep going. We'll keep going. Okay. Well, I guess with someone like you, I'd love to know what you're reading or any books that you've loved or something that's jumped out at you that's been inspirational or not. Just what book do you love or what are you doing?
Okay, so on the completely entertainment side, I love an author. I love 2 authors. One has passed on, so she doesn't have anything new out, but I like to go back to her work and reread it. Her name is Octavia Butler. She's a sci-fi writer, but it's not, and sci-fi is generally not my thing, but hers is very human. and it imagines a future that is different than now. And some of her stuff is strangely prophetic, but I love her work. It delves into a whole lot of issues without you getting caught up in them and making you see the world in a different way. Another author I really love for just beach reading is Walter Mosley. He has this series, it's the Easy Rawlins series. They're mysteries, but they're just amazing. And his family is from Louisiana, so there's always this little tie to that I really love. And another author who's from my hometown, New Iberia, Louisiana, James Lee Burke, also does these mystery novels, but it's about the way they paint the picture of where they are. Walter mainly does his stuff set in Los Angeles, and James Lee Burke does a lot of his work in Louisiana. So I feel like I'm closer to home when I see that. When it comes to other like nonfiction and things like that, I'm reading 2 books now. One of my friends gave me a wonderful book about their meditations for healing after loss. And every day it's just one little thing. If I can find the time to read just 5 minutes, it's a quote and a thought for recovery. And oh gosh, I'll have to get you the name of it. I can't, the lady's name is Marianne something, but it's amazing. And it's a year's worth of meditations. If you've lost anyone or are going through something, it helps me to keep my positivity going. And I just read one of my classmates from Northwestern, Katrina Adams, who was the first Black woman to lead the US Tennis Association. She just wrote a book called Own the Arena, which is really, really good. And it's all about her journey as the president of the organization that puts on the US Open.
Oh, how cool. I was going to say, I would have been like ferociously writing this down, but this is recorded so I can go back and write all of those down. These sound fun. I don't know. Right now I just purchased Becoming Michelle Obama's book. And that was going to be my new read. I wanted to read something nonfiction. And before that I was reading like a Mitch Rapp book. So I have my 2 going at the same time too. But I always love to
I have a stack of books, Lauren, that I will start and finish at another time. But it's like, I think sometimes you just get what you get from that book, and then you go on to the next one, and then you come back when you're ready for the rest of it.
Yes, I know. There's some entertainment sitting in my iPad too. I'm like, why did I want to read that? We'll get to it. All right, last, because we're past time, but I'm not going to cut the conversation short. If you got to travel, if you were just going to, I think you're somewhere right now pretty special because that's not Chicago in your background. But if you were going to go anywhere, like it was just easy to travel again, really easy, where would you want to go? Or maybe you don't want to go anywhere. I don't know.
I would be right where I am right now. I love Chicago. There are 3 places in the world that I love. I love Louisiana, where I'm from, Southwest Louisiana. It is one of the most beautiful and unique places, and it took me leaving it to be able to appreciate it for what it is, its beauty and uniqueness. I love Chicago because it is the biggest small town in the world, and it's a fabulous world-class city, but it still feels homey, for lack of a better word. And then the last place I would travel, which is what I did because the holidays got hard for me, and I wanted to be someplace safe from COVID and also someplace beautiful, since I had to be by myself because even my family didn't get together for the holidays to protect all the elders in our family, because my dad's loss hit everybody hard. I'm in Honolulu, on Oahu in Hawaii, which is my happy place. It's a place of healing for me. It is beautiful. The people are just amazing, and it's been good to get me back to who I am inside after a year of grieving.
Oh, well, even just seeing it in your background makes me feel good. And you did invite me and said I could come stay with you. So
there's an extra bedroom right over there. And there's a day bed right back there. Let's see. Yeah.
You're going to have all sorts of visitors coming to see you soon. Well, I'm just going to wrap it up and say thank you so much. You were always such a pleasure to speak with. Your smile is infectious. You're engaging. There's a reason you're my celebrity close to the 15 women in 15 minutes. But Jeanne Sparrow, thank you for being so lovely. And with that, I'll sign us off.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.